Parents, kids are amazing. Parenthood is amazing. Man, being a mom, being a dad, having these kids, it brings out the best in us. It brings out love inside of us that we didn't even know we had. It brings out compassion and gentleness. It brings out strength that we didn't even know existed. It opens up to a whole new world, an entire new universe of love and connection and purpose. It's like I have a purpose on this planet. Like my purpose is to love this child, keep them alive, and teach them morals, responsibility, goodness, integrity, and help them to be competent and successful in this world. Oh my gosh, thank you for these wonderful gifts called chilling. But man, Jordan, these freaking kids, dude, they bring out the worst in us. They make us so enraged and they freaking piss us off. And they bring out like this crazy side of us. They make us so angry and they bring out the worst in us, don't they, dude?
I was going to say, the way you were starting this podcast, I'm like, man, you are such a great dad. Looking at all the positives, glass half full approach. Like, these kids are beautiful. They're so calming and they bring joy to my world. Meanwhile, I'm like, stop banging the dang pots together, son. Why are you waking me up at 4 o'clock in the morning?
Oh, no.
What do you mean do I need to get you water? You have legs. Get your own dang water. There's so many other ways to look at it. But I like your way. It's more positive.
It's both ways, but that's why we're doing this. That's why we're doing today's episode because it's actually an extremely, extremely serious topic that people really need help and support on, Jordan. Anger and parental anger. This is... Don't you agree? This is a pretty serious topic.
Unfortunately, the kids get the worst of us, right? We try to be there and we try to keep it cool, but sometimes it's the littlest thing that makes us snap. Some of the stuff I've seen just in a Walmart or a grocery store, and I'm like, I cannot believe that person is acting like that towards their kid. And then I feel so bad for that kid. Like, people don't have control over their own emotions. It's really sad.
And you go to work and you probably act like a nice person, a nice adult. And then you just come home and it's like we show this like our worst side to our own children. They have an ability of getting under our skin, affecting us unlike any other human beings. And that's why we're here. Like, just here's a typical story of working with a man last night out of Los Angeles, and just a really great guy, really successful guy. I think we'd be buddies if we hung out in real life. And he's picking up his son from lacrosse practice, and his son is late coming to the car. He's screwing out with his friends. And in a short exchange, we're talking probably 60 seconds or less, maybe 120 seconds or less, these two escalated, and the dad escalated. He's enraged. And I even asked him, hey, was this like one of those situations where like the last 2-3 weeks was really, really hard? And it was just like, this was the straw that broke the camel's back. He's like, no, actually the last 3 weeks have been pretty good with this challenging son of mine.
What?
So just like that, like that's how common it is, especially when you're in a car. Like, things can just go from 0 to 100. And that's normal for a lot of people listening to this, Jordan. It's super common. It's a serious issue that people need support on, man. Anger management. Yeah.
A lot of the times in this podcast, you'll say, hey, like this is not what you're learning, your kids are learning in school, right? Some of the stuff that we're trying to teach and you're teaching, it's almost like we all need to go to an anger management class. Take deep breaths, count to 10 on anything. Someone cuts you off in the freeway. What's your first immediate? Road rage is insane.
Class.
We could go into just like us all living on top of each other, and we're in these villages with thousands upon millions of people, and so I get why we're all kind of going crazy. But it's sad when it gets taken out on our youth.
Let's do that right now. Let's do our best to give our listeners, to give you, my fellow parents. You're a good parent. You're here. Some lessons and some tips on anger management, because this is a very serious topic. So, for example, if you have recently cussed out your child because you were so enraged, you're not alone. If you have even recently hit your own child, you've hit them or smacked them, you might feel so ashamed and embarrassed. I just want you to know you're not alone. There's probably nothing wrong with you. You made a very horrible choice. If you have and got crazy because your two kids, they're siblings, and they're treating each other like crap. They're yelling at each other. They're whining. They're tattling. And then you end up yelling and snapping. I've got news for you. There's nothing wrong with you. You've got to address this anger in your life. If you got a snarky child, a tween or a teen, and they're saying just horrible, mean things to you, really mean, and occasionally you lose your temper, you yell at them, I've got some tips for you. If you've got a system in your house where you feel like your kid only listens to you, this is so common, Jordan. They only listen to you when you yell at them. I want you to know you're not weird, you're not broken, you're not alone, but you need some tools and some tips.
So thankfully, we have got a couple of tools and tips for everybody. So we get a chance to ask you, the family coach, how do we manage our anger so that our anger doesn't manage us and cause us to react?
First tip that I want us to think about is I want us to study your mind. I want you to understand your anger. I want you to understand what it is and what it isn't. Imagine if I was coaching and teaching a whole class of EMTs, first responders, ER nurses. Like, to do your job successfully, you've got to have the mind game set. Even your job, you go on live TV, national audience, and that's got to be like, you're probably used to it now, but that's got to be such a mind game. How do you get yourself ready to be on live TV,
Great
Jordan?
question. I think it's like anything, right? In the beginning, it's nerve-wracking, it's hard, and then it becomes day to day. So I feel like what you're trying to hint at is be head ready for what could come with your kids. But it takes time, man. I've tried this, and I've got my little 10 minutes. I did a little meditate. I'm ready for the kids. I go out there 30 seconds later. I'm about to blow a fuse.
So here's some tips for the mind, right? I'm going to give you 3 tips. The first tip is to understand your anger. And how this really happens is you've got to learn how to talk to yourself, counsel yourself. Let me give you some tips and think about this. The next time you get angry, I want you to say this to yourself. This is really good information. Anger is really good information. Let's say someone is upset at you, your child or your spouse, your partner, and they're raging at you. They're criticizing you. They're coming down. Before you do something mindless, do something mindful and say to yourself, this is really good information.
That's good. That's hard to do in the moment, though, when your cork is just popped and all you want to do is react. You're like a bottle of champagne. It pops and that champagne's going nowhere but up.
But that's the problem with our mindlessness. We just react and we jump right to what we're saying, or we react in our anger. So we've got to slow it down and counsel yourself and talk to yourself. When you are angry, it's telling you where you're at on a topic or where somebody else is at on this topic. Anger is less, this is pretty deep right here. This is so important. This information might change people's lives. I don't really teach, and a lot of people agree with me, I don't really teach, Jordan, that anger is an emotion or a feeling.
What do you teach it? What is it?
I teach that anger is more of a reaction to a feeling.
Oh, okay. So, well, yeah, I could see that.
So,
well, then what is that feeling? I guess that feeling could be hurt. It could be sad. And then the anger is coming because of that feeling is what you're saying.
If I had a bloody arm, my arm was covered in blood. It was so bloody, I wouldn't even know where the cut or the laceration was. But the blood is evidence that there's something wrong with my arm. You with me?
Yeah.
But if I take my hand or a towel and I wipe away the blood, then I can actually see what's underneath the blood.
So how much time are you saying here? Let's give an example, okay? You're in the car, you say, you drop the kids off at school. Hey, when you get home, I need you to do this. Now, do it yourself. And they slam the door.
So on the surface, you're thinking I'm angry.
Correct. But right away.
But now you're talking to yourself. You say, okay, let's slow it down. You want to breathe. You want to take a time out. But what do you do in that moment? So
collect
what do
your
you
thoughts.
think?
I'm assuming you were collecting.
Yeah, but what
thoughts.
are you thinking about? Here's what I'm trying to coach y'all to think about. Let's say that actually happened. I don't know what parents might be feeling, but I know that some parents might be feeling unheard. Some might be feeling disappointed. Some might be feeling shocked that this is happening in the car.
Disrespect.
disrespected, taken advantage of, uncared for, right? Some parents might even feel, this is a strong word, kind of violated. We're like, I'm here, I'm having a peaceful day, and all of a sudden these unpeaceful human just got in my car and kind of like ruined my vibe, you know?
Right.
So does this kind of make sense that this is actually what's underneath the anger is where the action is, and how we thrive with anger management is to realize that the anger is just like the blood. It's just a sign, it's a symbol of telling you something is going on underneath. What do you think about that?
So in that moment, it could take us a timeout, like you said, a couple of breaths. For some people, maybe it takes a little longer, and some people maybe have a skill down like you, and you can handle it within just a couple of seconds. But this is going to take some time, because if I go upstairs right now and my kids are throwing a fit and my wife is, underwater and they're disrespecting her, I'm going to snap at them, and I'm probably going to raise my voice. I'm going to start yelling.
Yeah, that would be like totally normal and culturally normal. But let me ask you, if that were to happen, you go upstairs right now and you were to see that scene, that horror movie that you just described, right? Everyday life. What do you think you would be feeling in that moment? Let me think about it too. Okay. When my kids are like for me, when I think of what drives me bonkers is when my kids are being mean to each other. I really gets under my skin, man. Okay. It really drives me nuts. Like, I don't know why I'm like this, but if I see an older sibling picking on or being mean to the younger sibling, dude, that chaps my heart, man.
Yeah.
That's like one of my things, dude.
And for me, I don't like it when they are mean to my wife, my spouse, when they disrespect her. That gets me. I'm like, you don't know what she does for us, so you stop it, or I'm going to throw you the chokey for Matilda.
So let's ask each other. Let's do this right now. Let's practice what we preach. What are you feeling in that moment? Let me think for a second. What am I feeling? I'm feeling very disappointed because I raised my daughters to love each other, and having Philadelphia brotherly love in my home is very important to me. Secondarily, I'm also realizing that I feel a little scared. I feel scared that this older daughter might hurt another child, the younger daughter, either hurt her feelings or like make her feel afraid. I also feel scared that I'm like allowing this like bullying type vibe in the house. See, this is all happening in me, right? And maybe that has to do with my childhood. It doesn't matter. This is just how I think. So what about you? What do you feel underneath? And if you want help picking a feeling word, I can help you. But what is underneath your anger?
Disrespected, like they are being disrespectful. They're and I don't know if that I get.
I'm not a big fan of that word.
I'm not seeing love. I'm not seeing love.
So let me pick on that word. I'm not a big fan of disrespect. It's kind of overused. So I think what's underneath the disrespect? You started going there. Okay, so you see disrespect.
The lack of showcase of the love, right? So like they don't care. Like they're just whatever. They're not appreciative.
What do you feel inside? All right, so what do you feel inside when you see your kids not caring?
Sad.
There you go. You feel sad. Sadness is underneath your anger. That totally makes sense. They made a whole movie on the beauty of sadness and how it's hidden underneath anger. It's called Inside Out by Pixar. Please keep going. What else?
Oh, I love that movie.
That's what the whole movie's about. It's about joy and sadness get taken away. And they're like, oh, no, we got to give her joy. We got to give her joy. We got to give her joy. And the hero of the story was actually sadness. And that's actually for us men, especially, men super struggle in expressing sadness. We suck at it. We're much better in expressing anger or rage or pep talks or stupid, cheesy, stupid stuff. But if we can actually get in touch with our sadness, then good things are going to happen, because sadness is very inviting versus rage or anger is very much like, ooh, scary, prickly. So please continue. Tell me about sadness.
Well, I was going to say, as I'm thinking about this, and I think of like the lack of respect that they have or appreciation for the stuff we've done. Then I circle back and think maybe we're doing too much because we want them to have the best life. And so we're not necessarily helicopter parenting, but we're caring for our kids and almost need they need to get out and get dirty so they can see what we've done to provide. And maybe
Yeah.
there's kind of this backwards way of parenting where we need to have them do more, not less, in order for them to appreciate what we have and versus not have.
See, this is all going on in your mind underneath the anger, is what you just
Right.
told us.
Right.
So this is what I'm just inviting you all to do listening. Slow it down and talk to yourself. What is underneath your anger? Here's something else I've learned about anger is that for many people, anger is a sign of your crappy self-care. You suck at it. You're a big freaking mess. Your kids go and they leave a wet towel on the ground. They put the mustard in the wrong spot. You pick them up from lacrosse and you're like all butthurt because you've been stuck in traffic for 30 minutes and you are reacting in anger. And why? Is it because your kids are disrespectful? No. Is it because they don't understand where to put the mustard? No. Is it because there's going to be hygienic problems from a wet towel on the ground? No. It's because you suck at taking care of yourself, you big dummy.
So you're saying we need to have more mindfulness about our everyday, I guess life, whether it's go to the gym or have a hobby, and that's going to help us with our anger management.
Doesn't that make sense? I mean, here's what like a typical client sounds like for me that has serious anger problems. Yeah, my life's hard. I go to work, X, Y, and Z, and this is hard. And then I come home and it's hard. And I'm like, boo-hoo, dude. Boo-hoo you. Like, welcome to adulthood. You think your life's hard? Well, let me show you somebody else's life who's 10 times harder. So I'm being called salty right now, but doesn't that make sense that you would figure out a way, for example, okay, what about if you, before you came into the house, you sat in your car for 15 minutes and you take care of yourself. You maybe listen to a podcast. You listen to some jazz music, some nice lo-fi.
Ooh, Kenny G.
Dude, Kenny G. You don't tell me you like Kenny G. You like Kenny G? No, I actually listen
I'm indifferent.
I tell you how old I'm getting, dude. I've been listening to a lot of jazz recently. I love jazz music.
Dude, I'm into 90s country right now.
90s country?
90s
like Shania
country.
Twain?
Dude, all that. I love it.
Who else in the 90s?
Brooks and
Brooks
Dunn.
and Dunn's good.
Garth Brooks is a classic.
90s
just
country.
some of the old stuff like Achy Breaky Heart. Stuff that just makes you feel good, man.
That's what my wife Danielle grew up on. She struggles with the modern stuff because a lot of it is like drinking,
rock. Yeah,
rock,
it's not correct.
Girls in short shorts, and she's not vibing with that. But see, isn't that kind of makes sense though? That if someone might think you have an anger management problem, and you might, but what you actually have is you have a self-care problem. You need more time in your everyday life to care for yourself, to love yourself.
I think that's really wise because one of the things that my wife and I have done since, I would say within the last 5 to 7 years, we've been together for a really long time since we were in high school. And, you go through the growing pains of your 20s and, selfishness and trying to figure everything out. And then your parents, and there's a lot of patience issues. And of course, people who've been married this long understand this, but it's hard. But what she said to me recently is, I am a big outdoorsman. So I like to go on these hunting trips with my family and I like to just get outside.
Yeah, dude.
And in the beginning part of a relationship, it was a lot of like, well, no, and we didn't have the money for it. And we just had to figure this out, right? We wanted to do stuff together. But as we got kids and it was just harder for us to find time away, one of us could stay and watch the kids, the other can go. And then we started saying yes to other, ideas of what we each need.
Yeah.
And what we've come to realize is like, she's even said that she goes, I've realized you're a better dad and husband if I let you go.
Let's go.
If you go
Let's
out for a
go.
while. And I'm like, so true and wise.
Yeah, man. Well said. I've been waking up at 5:10 in the morning. I hate it. Why do I wake up so early? Because what I'm doing at 5:10 is helping me be a better man, a better dad. I'm getting up to go pick up basketball at 5:30 in the morning. And so, you know what? There's no excuse. We all have the same amount of time in a day. We all have the same amount of time as Elon Musk. If you think about that, for example.
True.
He has the same amount of time as us. And so if you are going through a hard time in your marriage, or your parenting, or you have a disease or finances are hard, it means you need more time for self-care, more time to care for yourself and to think through and to get ready. Like I said to this man, Jordan, I said, you know what? Based on what you're telling me, it's kind of like a kryptonite moment for you when you pick up your son from lacrosse. It's like you get in that car and you've been stuck in traffic, and it's kind of like you're vulnerable to, like, you know, have these escalations and these moments. You with me on this story? Am
Yeah.
I? So it's like we all have these like moments in our lives when we're more prone to anger. It's like, why do we go, why do we go to yoga? Why do we hang out with friends? This weekend I went with my buddy Brandon, and we went to the coast, and I did we did some hiking on the coast. I did some crabbing. I did some fishing. We just broed out, eat some tacos at nighttime. We do that so I can come back and not need a rest, but I come back to be the best man that I can be, and to not be this angry, rageful person that I do struggle with sometimes, man. Right?
Yeah. You are getting some me time. You're recharging your batteries, and so that you can come back and be the best dad and husband you could be. But before we move on to your next tip, one question I have is there such thing as, bad me time versus like good me time? Like, is there such thing as like something that would be not good?
Right. We've done some really good stuff on this podcast about that. And I'd love to get your take on that too. I would say, yeah, because, me time is good, but it's got to be done in a way that your partner supports you, your spouse. Otherwise, you're looking at selfishness, or you're looking at avoid it. Like, you sit in your car for 20 minutes before you come in to take care of yourself. That doesn't sound like avoidance. That sounds like good self-care. But you going with your stay-at-home parent, you being intentional about these things that I'm sure we can all find ways to care for ourselves, where this me time is actually us time in a sense. We're supportive of the team mission. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I do. And I think, there's a lot of people that could use that me time, put it in parentheses, me time, as an excuse, as you said.
It
right?
is,
Like,
yeah.
I need to go to the bar with the boys and get a couple pints because we just had a hard day at work. Then that turns into, we're going to Vegas and we're partying, and you're not
Totally.
getting the proper me time as
Right, dude.
you need to charge your batteries rather than draining your batteries. That's my thought. That's where I want to get your take on that.
I do. That's kind of when I like to pick on golf at times, because I do like golf. I do play some golf. But imagine if, like, you're a young mom and you've got 2 kids under 6, and your husband likes golf. And we want to support his golf habit and support his happiness. But there's only 2 days of the week where he's not working, Saturday and Sunday. And to have him gone for like 6 hours on a Saturday morning while she's at home Monday through Friday with the kids, that may not be a good fit. Right? There's got to be a
100%.
compromise and cooperation.
Go to the driving range. Bring one of your 6-year-olds with you.
Exactly. Go to right. And it's just temporary. Like, maybe when the kids are older, you'll have more time for 18. But it's just like, this is the type of selflessness that I struggled with as a young parent. And I'm trying to help other young parents. I really struggled with understanding this balance and give and take. You did too? I can't imagine you. Yeah.
Well, we had twins. Yes, of course. I mean, you are going from just being single and doing whatever you want to like, we have this newborn now, but I still want to do whatever I want. But no, it doesn't work like that. Like, you have to work together, and you do almost have to lock yourself inside. Not, this is metaphorically, and be there for the kids until they get a little older, and then you can get back out.
Yeah. I hope you really got some great tips from point number 1, is really understanding your anger. What is the root? Where is it coming from? Why is it? What are your weak spots, right? How are you giving your power away to this child? Do you want to let a 14-year-old child who doesn't wear deodorant drive you nuts? Do you want to let a wet towel on the ground or a dirty bedroom? Do you want to pick that battle? Do you want to let a stinky kid coming in from a lacrosse practice, who maybe hasn't eaten, who maybe had a bad lacrosse practice, maybe has just going through a funky madunk? Do you want to let that kid drive you nuts and let you boil to that point, right? And talk to yourself. What is underneath your anger? All right, you ready for point 2?
Yes.
Okay, point 2 is anger is born and managed in your thoughts. All right, let me explain.
So an event happens.
Yeah.
You have a feeling, therefore anger is created and is born in your thoughts.
It's kind of deep, but everyone that's listening to this, including me and you, Jordan, let's ask ourselves, okay, think about a time that you lashed out in anger. And maybe you lashed out by snapping, yelling, name calling, yelling, raising your voice. Or maybe you lashed out by just going to your bedroom and playing on your phone. Maybe you lashed out by walking out of the house. Maybe you lashed out by leaving and going to turn on a TV show. See how this is this is a form of how anger manifests itself. You with me?
Yeah. As a parent, this is a way of lashing out. Like, I'm just going to ignore it and I'm going to go turn on Netflix. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I am. It's saying the same thing a different way. Is like, here's like so many parenting experts, we demonize yellers and yelling. We say yelling's bad. Like I could show you 10 stats on the dangers of yelling right now, which I'm not going to. And we say, don't yell. This episode is actually kind of part of that. Don't yell. You with me?
Yeah. I am going to be with you, but not yelling is impossible.
But you know what? Here's the other side of the coin.
Oh.
You know what's I think is worse than yelling is avoidance. People pleasing. Hiding in a bottle or hiding in a screen. Like they made a movie on that. It's called Anger Management with Adam Sandler, right? Just stuffing that anger inside of you. We don't talk about that enough in the parenting kind of world. People who struggle with anger, but they don't release the anger out of their mouth, they hide and they run away. That is a legit painful thing that's causing a lot of pain in people's lives, man.
So as this bottles up over time, will it eventually let out and
It
maybe
might.
an event down the road?
It might, but you know what it'll probably let out is the spouse will let out. The spouse will be, I'm done with this. I'm done with being married with somebody who doesn't speak up, who doesn't co-parent, who just hides, and hides in a screen and doesn't bring that passion out. So if you think about it this way, if you're a yeller, good for you. How about that? We're just flipping the script. Good for you, because yelling is you're bringing your passion out. Yelling means you're trying to connect. You're trying to teach. You're trying to help. You're trying to protect. You're trying to do something good probably when you're yelling, right?
Yeah, you're just doing it in the wrong way. I get it.
Yeah. So this episode is not about demonized yelling. It's about helping us to manage our emotions so they don't manage us. And anger is born in our minds. So here's the point of this. What type of things do you think people say to themselves the milliseconds before they're about to yell? What type of things do we parents say to our minds? What kind of thoughts are going through our heads before we let it out and we yell and we rage?
I'm assuming it's going to be, I'm going to get these kids to listen right now. I want to be heard.
Okay, for sure. Those are two. I need them to listen.
I need them to listen. I need
them to hear me. Yes. What else? We don't know.
I need this fighting between siblings to stop right now.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, yelling really loud to get them to stop.
Yes.
Not like they're fighting and be like, hey guys,
good.
Just please stop it. Show love. Like, come on, stop it. You love each other. You got to get their attention now.
Yeah.
Hey, hey.
Yeah. I can't let them treat me this way. I can't let them treat each other this way. I need to teach them. This is what goes on in our heads. Let's just sit on that point for another second. What else goes in our head? Ooh, how about this one? I can't take this anymore.
Ooh, yeah, I can't take this anymore. I'm going to drive this car off this cliff if you guys don't stop yelling.
Dude,
the road trips with my kids loud, I am like going mad. It's just like, I don't know. I need headphones or something because they're driving me crazy.
Dude, oh my gosh. I can't take this anymore. All right. What else? They need to listen. They need to learn. They better stop. They need to stop. If I don't speak up right now, well, then this is what's going to happen. They're going to become this. They're going to become bad people. Yeah. I'm a bad parent if I don't speak up. There you go. That's a big one. I'm a bad parent if I let this go. I need to let them know. What else you think is going through people's heads?
I mean, if they're yelling, I'm just worried about my hearing loss. So I need them to quiet down. Okay, I'm getting older now. Things are harder to hear.
Right.
Just
now let's say
that guy get some peace and quiet.
Let's say that we've seen the cartoons. This is something I teach a lot of my clients in courses in Family 180 and the Parents Club. This is the short version of it. Let's say that we've seen the cartoons. The little angel is on one shoulder and the little red devil is on the other shoulder of ours, right? Whether you think that's real or make-believe, we're not getting into that right now. Now, do you think that if there was a little red devil on our shoulder, do you think that this is what the devil would be saying? You better not let them treat you that way. You need to teach them. You can't take this anymore. They need to listen to you. You better say something. Oh my gosh, don't be passive. Don't you dare take a timeout. Speak up right now. You're the freaking boss. They better respect you. They better respect you. Teach them about respect. You're a bad parent if you don't speak up. You're a sissy. You're so weak. You're nothing. Look at this kid punk you around. He's so disrespectful. Teach him a lesson. Does that sound
Man,
like the
that's
red
good.
devil?
Have you
Or is
been
that
a little red devil before? That was really good.
Yeah, dude. I know that
was
voice.
so good.
I know that voice too well, dude.
That was
That
good.
voice has effed me up in my life.
I've heard that
man.
voice. Oh, I want to flick that voice off my shoulder, but it stays there. Even if you got the practice down, it stays there.
So this is why we're having this podcast, because anger is born and it's managed in that moment in our thoughts. So yeah, you want to go to yoga? Go to yoga 5 times a week. Go to yoga 5 times a day. You want to have some self-care by running? You could run 20 miles today. But if you can't talk to yourself in a very truthful, helpful manner in those heated moments, it doesn't matter how much yoga you do, you yoga freak. It doesn't matter how much running you go, you triathlete.
Yeah, that's so true.
Right?
We need the angel to either be louder or for us to learn to mute the red devil.
Both. Let's do it. Now let's be the angel. You tell our audience, and I'll tell them, what do you say to yourself to counsel yourself in that moment?
You've got this. Just take a few breaths. What do you really want to teach them right now? Let's think about that. Okay, what is going to be the best thing to do in this moment to relay a good message so that they don't do this again?
Oh, that's good.
Stuff like that.
Good. Okay, I'll go and then you go some more, okay? I say to myself, this is not the time or the place, Sean. I say to myself, teaching moments don't happen in the moment. I say, Sean, you know what, this is a time for you to be the adult in the relationship and to take care of yourself. I say, Sean, do you need to take a time out right now before you say something dumb? And then Danielle's going to be all pissed off at you. I say that one a lot. What else
I should say
yourself?
that more because Danny will look at me and be like, not okay, Jordan. I'm like, dang it. I should have had that voice in my head.
I do.
I say, don't stoop to their level. Don't go down to where they are.
Don't stoop.
You know,
dude.
Show that you're unshakable. Show them it's not even bothering you.
Okay.
Say things like that.
Yeah. I say the opposite of that. I say, you know, how can you show them in a gentle way that you're hurting right now and you don't like that? Not in a snarky with your face way, because I'm really good at that passive aggression type stuff with my face. How do you let them see your sadness right now? That's what I say. Because I'm a big fan of sadness. Isn't that weird? Whoever says that?
Do you do that with words?
Who
That's
talks
weird.
like that?
I don't talk like
I
that.
just say the dumbest stuff sometimes. What Danielle reminds me all the time. I said I'm a big fan of sadness. Who says that?
Yeah,
like when I say dumb stuff, you got to call me out. But I'm actually being serious. That's part of the problem.
No, that's why I didn't want to call you out, because you made a point that made
serious.
sense. I'm a big fan of sadness because it shows you what you care about. And I get where you're coming from when you were saying that, but
think of this. Let's say
it.
that you're hurting and you're going through a hard time, and you want somebody to be there for you. You want your spouse or your friend. You want them to be there for you. You don't want to be by yourself. You want a friend because your kids are acting like bozos. What is a more inviting way to get somebody to care for you? Option 1 or 2? Option 1, gosh, these kids drive me nuts, and you're driving me nuts. This whole world sucks. These kids suck. You know what? I'm so pissed off right now, and you're not even helping. You're not even helping. You're just sitting there, and I'm just all by myself. We're going to let our kids do this. Will you do something? Yes. I would really love a hug right now and to talk to you about this.
Yeah, ain't no one touching that with a 10-foot pole.
Right? It's not inviting. That's a janky Evite right there, dude. I ain't going to that party.
But you do also want to show your frustration. But you're saying to show it in a different way.
It does, but anger repels people. That's the whole point. of the movie Inside Out. It's a cartoon about how anger does not invite people into comfort or connection. And so you want your kids to care for you. But you got to realize if you're raging Cajun at them, if you're saying stupid stuff out of your mouth, giving stupid pep talks, lectures, calling them names, labeling their behavior, you're being disrespectful. This is disrespectful. You're out of control. You realize no one's coming to that party. No one's going to want to care for you. You're just a freaking robot right now. You're a labeling robot. You're like one of those labels you can go get where you can, stamp it out, punch it out, put a little label.
But the problem is, it's hard to teach to be cool, to try to relay a message in the moment. So it's almost like these tips you're giving us is for after an explosion or a blow up.
Dude, teaching moments never happen in the moment. If your kid's exploding, you may not have the emotional maturity or the availability to show presence and adulthood in that moment. So you, instead of timing them out or putting them on the naughty chair, grounding them, which is so dumb, you time yourself out like a freaking adult. You say, look, I'm not in a good spot right now. I need to go take care of myself. And if we were to do that to our kids, Jordan, parents or teachers in every home's a school, we'd be teaching our kids a lot of things, put you on the spot. What do we teach our kids when we say this simple sentence? It takes about 7 seconds. Time me. Hey, I'm not feeling good. I don't like the way you're talking to me right now. Before I react, I'm going to take a time out and I'll come back in a few minutes. Okay. How many seconds did that take?
Between 7 and 8.
Okay.
I like that.
Our
But
kids?
let me, that's good. But what if, okay, your example, your kids are fighting. You can't stand it. You want them to stop. You tell that to them and then they just go back to fighting. You're taking the time out, but they're still doing what you despise.
Hey, man, this episode is not about how to thrive in those teaching moments. This episode is about anger and realizing that teaching moments don't happen in the moment, because you're not going to thrive as a teacher if you're just all boiling over and steaming.
Yeah, you're right. That's true. If
In
we can control our reactions by taking our own little time out, that will show them that you have more, control.
Right.
You don't stoop to their level. Like that's what my thing is. Don't go down to what they're doing.
Right. Yeah. If our goal is to manage our emotions, if our goal is to connect, do you think our children are going to be able to connect with us if we're just all like upset and we're like coming in with passive aggression or aggression? They're not going to be able to connect with us. So how can we connect with them and help them and emotion coach them if we can't even do that for ourselves?
Well, they can't. So we got to step up to the plate.
So by taking a simple time out, we're teaching our kids lots of things. We're teaching them, one, that we're human beings, right? We get angry. We struggle. Two, we're showing them this is what a healthy adult does. We manage our anger. We control ourselves. And we're teaching them to take time outs. We're teaching them to do that. We're modeling that, because with kids, more is caught than taught. And then we're showing them that we're not avoiding this. We're not going to just leave them to hurt each other or just leave them on their own. We're there. We care. We're coming back. So sometimes I tell parents, think of a typical situation where you have a mom who's very emotionally connected to the kids. She struggles with yelling. She struggles with reminding, nagging. And then a dad who kind of works a lot and he's not really that connected. And he's maybe the good cop and the mom's the bad cop. And he just kind of flies in and does the fun parenting. You got a vision in your head of that?
100%. Yep.
So super common dynamic here in America, right? Probably around the world. But if you think about it, then the dad needs to work on connecting and the mom needs to actually work on disconnecting.
To have more fun. Yeah. It's so funny. One of my kids said, Mom, I wish you would play with me more. Because she does. Dad plays with us all the time. Yeah. Right. So I see what you're saying. Yeah. Where there's that, you almost need to switch roles for a little bit.
Yeah, that's kind of what modern parenting is. So different than how this podcast was filmed in 1985, even 1995. How does the mother temporarily emotionally disconnect so she can go take care of herself so then she can better connect? How does she detach to attach? How does the dad who's been detached at work all day how does he then take care of his mind and himself so that then he can attach to his most important job, which is being a great dad at home, right? Or a parent, doesn't matter. Exchange, if you're a working mom, just change the gender roles. I don't care. I'm not getting into all that. Just change it, man, husband, whatever you are. I don't care.
Yeah, sure. And I think one of the things we said, but I want to make sure is a point when everyone's kind of listening here. You don't just take a time out on your own. You verbalized it to your kids.
Yeah,
so
buddy.
that's what you mean by teaching it, right? You telling them.
Yeah, we've got to make it clear when we are not doing well. Like, here's a great tip. When you get really grumpy or frustrated, tell everybody, I'm just really grumpy right now. I'm just really frustrated. And that lets them know where you're at. And then you do something good about it, because we got to do this. Like for me, one of the worst times in my life, man, is when I'm packing up from a family camping trip. You think I'm like this great composed person? You don't know me. You don't know me. Dude, you want to see me? You think I'm a soft parent? Dude, you want to see me? I'm not a soft parent. Dude, okay. If you are with me on our family camping trip and it's time to pack up, dude, I become Drill Sergeant Donohue, man. I don't care nobody's feelings. You go over there. Okay, I need you to pick up 10 pieces of trash. Hey, roll up those sleeping bags and bring it over there. Where are the bags? Where are the bags? You put the bag in the dirt? What are you doing? You had one job, to roll up sleeping bags, and you put them in the dirt? Come on now. Let's go. All right. Now, you know what? What are you doing? There's no bathroom breaks. There's no bathroom. We're cleaning up.
Sean, you're yelling. Have you ever taken a break during pack-up session after camping and be like, hey, guys, I got to take 5, okay? I am so upset right now. Just do whatever. I'll be back.
I don't know if my wife's going to hear this or my kids, but hopefully I've grown a lot in how I manage my emotions after a camping trip when it's Sunday morning and it's time to pack up. How about you? When you're at your worst, what is your kryptonite? Where like this happens? Give me a scenario. Dude, and it just drives you nuts. Here's another one for me as you think. Here's another one. This one's so dumb. It's so dumb. These freaking kids are so dumb. You ask them to like do a chore. Let's say it's empty the garbage. And they're like, I haven't used the garbage.
Yeah, they do that all the time. All the time.
Can you help with the dishes?
I need you to clean up the basement. Right. I wasn't the last one down there. I don't care. I wasn't down there at all. The dishes.
Can you help with
great.
The dishes? No, I didn't touch on the dishes. Can you help clean the bathroom? That's none of my stuff. You freaking kid, you better not get near me right now, man, because I'll go Sergeant Donohue on you, dude.
Yeah, dude. That is so relatable. So many of us can picture that because it happens in my house, it happens at your house. It's like, what are you talking about? I cooked you dinner. I didn't eat your dinner. I mean, I put the plate back in the in the sink. It doesn't. I don't want to do this either.
I think for me, I'm a very driven person. I'm very hard worker when I want to work hard, play hard. So for me, I want to share in my kids the value of hard work. So it pushes my buttons when I see laziness. So instead of me getting angry, I practice what I preach and say, here's what I want to do. Okay, what's happening? Well, my kids are acting lazy, right? But what's happening inside of you, Sean? I don't know. I don't want to talk to myself right now. Remember, Sean, this is what you remembered in these moments. Well, yeah, they're being lazy. But why? Well, because they're kids. Yes, but why else? Well, because they don't have the same work ethic on this topic as you do. I know. But I want to speak up. Yeah, but is this a good time to speak up? Probably not. Right. Are you going to give them a pep talk about working hard right now? You're all in your head. You're right. This is probably not the best time. Plus, you're just making up these stories in your head. Your kid doesn't really struggle with laziness. You're right. That's true. I'm just being weird right now. Yes. So why don't you just shut up and go give your wife a big hug and grab her butt or do something that helps you feel good, right? You know what I mean? So that's like, that's a
good little mental pep talk you just walked yourself through. So many of us would just go right off the edge and start screaming.
Right. So this is like I'm trying to give you an example. How do you talk to yourself in that moment? My little angel tells me to calm down and go grab my wife's butt, even though she doesn't like that sometimes. So maybe I should edit that out of the podcast. But you get where I'm going with this.
Well, Here's the thing. I always tell myself how do I want to react? And that's just, I guess, more recent, probably just from listening to you. I know I'm going to snap. I've been bubbling up. I've been letting things pass. They've been disrespectful to Danny. They keep saying no. They won't get off the iPad. They won't go brush their teeth. They won't take a shower. They won't get ready for bed. And I'm like, I'm about to snap. And I'm like, okay, how do I need to react right now? So I always try and take a second. My son dropped the F-bomb. I think I may have shared the story. He dropped the F-bomb. And I had, in that moment, to try and figure out, what do I need to do? How do I need to react to get this out? But it was cool because normally I would have just reacted. But I had some of these tools, and I took a second to think how I wanted to move forward. And that's what you're trying to get us to do.
Well, here's point 3. And I've got some. Point 3 is like what you actually do. Because if you think about point 1 and 2, you're actually talking to yourself. Point 3 is now you're actually going to talk to somebody else. So that actually kind of makes sense. That how do you thrive with anger management? It really happens in your mind in how you talk to yourself, right? If you want to let a 5-year-old drive you nuts, then do it. If you want to be in a codependent relationship with a 7-year-old, then do it. If you want to let your 16-year-old daughter, who is just going through a hard time because she's just in a 16-year-old salty phase, then do it. But you don't have to do it. You don't have to give your power away to these children. So point number 3 is to replace your anger and your anger expressions with heart talks. Heart talks. Think about this. When we put, this is kind of going back to what we said about 15 minutes ago. There's something that these have in common, Jordan. What comes up for you when I ask you, what do these terms have in common? I need to teach them. They better not listen. They better listen. They need to teach them to listen. I can't take this anymore. They better do what I need to do. They better learn. What do those all have in common?
I, selfishness, what I want them to do, what I need them to do.
Well said. It's all about selfishness and getting controlling people. Because you want what you want. It's like an adult temper tantrum, dude. That's what we struggle with. That's what our angry things are, is we struggle with adult temper tantrums over pure selfishness.
Okay. So story time when I failed to do these, but then I circled around and finished with the bow. My daughter lost her cool. We were at a family vacation, national park. We're going to the gift shop. I said, okay, you guys get $15.
Okay, give me a picture. What vacation, what scene was this?
Okay, we're at the Grand Canyon. Got this big hole in the ground. It was beautiful, right?
Oh, fancy.
Why do we go and stare at a big hole in the ground? I don't know.
It's really big, though. I heard it's
really
bigger
big.
than like the Empire State Building, like way bigger hole. I heard it's really big.
I think you can fit 9 in there or something, like stacked on top of each other. I don't know. I'd have to Google that. I don't know how much it is, but it's huge. Okay, it's huge. So we're going there. And first off, I'm really appreciative of my kids because they actually find joy in this big hole. And I'm like, this is so cool.
Super cool, dude.
You know? All right. And then it's like, okay, time for a gift shop. All right. I'll let you guys go to the gift shop. Here's $15 a piece. Go buy your gift. And then we got to go. So
solid gift. Solid $15.
Yeah.
Very generous.
Well, I mean, gifts now is like $10 minimum for a dang freaking toy. So I said, pick what you want. Well, everybody got what they wanted, but my daughter couldn't decide. She could not decide. She wanted two things so much. She wanted this Indian arrowhead that looked so cool. She wanted this geode that was a rock, and it looked beautiful. They were earthy. They were great choices.
9-year-old daughter could decide.
Couldn't decide. And I said, hey, you just got to pick one. I'm at the checkout counter. She wouldn't pick one. I just can't decide. Emery, you're about to lose your $15. You need to pick one. You have 30 seconds to get up here, and I'm walking. Okay? This took a long time. It probably took 30 minutes, this whole conversation. But Kinlan was acting up, my little 4-year-old, and we had to go.
So you're losing patience 30 minutes.
Losing patience. Probably 30 minutes back and forth, back and forth. She could not figure it out. Can I get both? Can I have an increase? I want both. Nope, you get one. We decided on one. Your other sibling didn't get. It's fair. It's like I want to keep.
Asked and answered. That's fair.
So I said, we're at the checkout counter. The lady's like, is this all? I'm like, here we go. I'm giving her my credit card. Bring what you want up. She couldn't decide. I'm like, okay, I'm paying. We're done. She freaks out. She loses it. We just spent 30 minutes. Time to go. We're moving
Oh
on. We get in
gosh,
the car.
losing
I
it
forced her
in
the
a
car,
public place?
losing it in a public place, just
crying,
just causing a scene.
Were you embarrassed? Was it like people were looking at you? That's Jordan Steele
everybody
from the
was
Weather
looking.
Channel.
No, they don't know who that was. But everybody was looking at us, and I was like, there was a line behind us. I was like, all right, let's go. So we're outside. She's begging to go back in. I'll choose one now. I was gonna decide. I promise. I was right
you're
there.
pissed.
Oh,
You're pissed, though.
gosh.
You've lost your chance.
Okay.
Yeah.
And honestly, I was cool for 30 minutes.
Dude,
my top popped. And so I'm like, we're done. This is it. We're leaving.
Great parenting. 30 minutes of coolness, dude. Good for you.
Got in the car, went home, complete meltdown. Complete meltdown.
Ruining the vacation, dude.
I said it earlier in the podcast. I want to drive this car off the cliff. I mean,
what cliff? You're talking about a big cliff.
There were times I was like losing my cool, and we kept our cool forever. And then finally, I had to I exploded. I was cool for a long time, Sean. But
you lost it.
I finally lost it. I started yelling. I said, if you don't stop this right now, I will pull over and drop you off. And okay? I'm getting to that point.
In the middle of Arizona, you 9-year-old. I don't care. It's over. It's over. Your life's over.
You know what she said?
Please tell me. Please tell me.
Okay, then. Do it, Dad. Do it. Oh.
Dude, she's tough. She's
then
tough.
It pushed my
You're raising a strong woman.
I started slowing down, pulling over. Danny's like, I am not comfortable with this. Absolutely not. And I'm like, no, I'm dropping her off. I'm going to drop her off, and I'm going to drive this car away. I'll come back in 10 minutes, but I'm going to drive away.
Oh, but yeah, because you're not thinking straight. You're lost. That story. Dude. Okay, so what happened? Did you end up pulling over? Did you get a slushy?
It took there was an hour. There was an hour 15-minute drive back. She finally stopped. She gets to the house. She calms down. We finally have a heart to heart. Yeah. And we're like, this is why we went through all of our reasons and told her we cared about her, and she was being extremely selfish. We were trying to point these things out, and then she came out like, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to do that. And she's crying, and she finally got it. But it probably took let's be real. It probably took 2 hours for this whole process to take place.
Oh, so hard, dude.
And I know there's so many worse stories than that one. But all I'm saying is it's not a
great story.
Case.
But I
did lose it.
You did, which I love your honesty. We've all been there, man. I've been there too. But the part of the story that I love the most, well, second most, my favorite part was when you said I'm going to drive this car off a cliff when you're in the canyon.
Dude, I was boiling.
That's hilarious.
Boiling.
It was like 2 hours, which is just a testimony to you're trying to connect. You're trying to emotion coach. And it sounds like you were successful in helping her to process everything that just went down.
But it didn't happen in the moment, like you said, right? It happened later because she couldn't hear. She couldn't understand. She was making no sense. You
can't talk to somebody. Right. It's called flooded is what psychologists call. When you're flooded with emotions, you're not going to be able to talk like your normal best self. Or when your child is, you've got to wait until the right time. So replace your anger with heart talks, because what happens is that we put our faith in certain things. I'm sitting in a chair right now because I trust this chair to hold me up and to be there for me. I'm putting my faith in this brand to show up for me. I put our faith that my favorite TV show is going to produce a great episode for me. So where we go wrong is we put our faith in anger and expressions of anger and passive aggression or aggression, yelling. And I'm inviting us to tell you that you've put our faith in something bad. Anger is a beautiful thing. Some of the greatest things that ever happened in this world is because of anger. You know, we tipped over and we fought at the Tea Party. We abolished slavery because people were very angry and they had the courage to abolish it. We've stand up and done great things as society. You've done some great things and some great parenting because anger was actually fueling you. Anger is amazing. I love anger. Partly why I'm here in this freaking podcast is because I'm pissed off. I'm really pissed off and I'm angry about what's happened to kids and what's happened to parents. And I'm angry and pissed off about kind of what happened to me as a kid growing up. And I don't want that to happen to my kids or to your kids or to you. But we've got to put our attention, put our faith in that these angry expressions, these angry conversations are not working. We've got to convince ourselves that anger is not going to accomplish our goals, and raising amazing, lovely, responsible kids, it's going to happen in these sweet heart-to-heart talks, like Jordan gave us a good example.
If you were to ask me what I think of when it comes to parental anger, I would say yelling
Yeah.
that we've talked about, physical
Okay.
reprimand, right? Being, smacking, manhandling, which
Yeah.
still happens. I see it. You see it. Maybe you're
Have
doing
you heard
it.
of the
Maybe we're doing it.
chancla? Chancla
No.
before? Have you heard of that?
Chocolate?
I had to
Chancla?
chancla,
Uh-uh.
Chancala. I had to Google it because it's a pretty big thing, a part of some people's cultures. It's like getting spanked or hit with a sandal. The sandal is called a chancla.
Oh,
Some people are
okay.
laughing right now because they were hit many, many times by a chancla,
Is that in
and
the
they
Hispanic culture? Because in that movie Coco,
yes.
the grandmother throws the sandal at the boy all the
Yes,
time.
so that's probably a joke towards the chancla, but yes, they do use sandals in a lot of other cultures. I was spanked as a kid, and there's funny
Wooden
stories about
spoon,
that and sand
belt.
stories, right? So we're just trying to give you replacements for their corporal punishment, spanking, timeouts, angry yelling, rages. This has all been scientifically proven to not be effective, to not work, and in some cases actually cause traumatic trauma in children. So yes, so yeah, when you think anything else you comes to mind with you when you
Well,
think of
I was going
parental
to ask
anger?
you is like with your clients and just in your life, have you seen people go from that stage of beating or hitting or physically reprimanding and yelling to this calm, collected, cool?
Yes, there's hope. Yes, so have hope. Yes, if you are a yelling person and you're struggling with your anger, have hope. You can change. The type of anger expression that we see a lot of nowadays is not parents hitting their kids or spanking them. But what I see even more of, more than 50%, is the type of anger expression which is manifested as avoidance, man. Avoidance into a screen, hiding in your
Yeah.
work, working too much, just hiding on the golf course, hiding
It'll
at
be
the
interesting to
gym.
see, like, when studies come out, what's worse, avoidance or physical reprimand, if they'll be comparable to each other.
I got lots of opinions on that, but let's just keep moving on and talk about that some more, right? It's like it's it's so lonely. It can be so lonely being married to somebody who's just an avoidant parent. They're just not there for you. They're not there for your kids. And yeah, it can be super lonely and scary when you're married to a yelling parent, or to a narcissistic or a selfish parent. It'd be so scary and hard. And that's why we're making this podcast, to support you all that are listening. There's a lot of parents that are hurting out there, Jordan.
Maybe one way to motivate each other is to like listen to this together, read a parenting book together, right? That way you're kind of, it's like,
Mm,
oh, I would love it if my spouse would work out more. Hey, maybe let's work out together. I don't know if this is going to work. I'm just trying to think, if you feel this
it's good
way, there's got
advice.
to be a way
Yeah.
to get better together so you don't drift apart.
Yes. It's so good. Like, hey, you want me to work on my anger, and so please help me. Can we do something together? Can we talk about this? Or, hey, honey, thank you for agreeing to work on your anger. Can we listen to this podcast together? Or can we read this
Yeah.
book together? Like, I want to. It's not you. Remember, when it comes to marriage and co-parenting, it's not you versus them. It's about, for betters or worse, it's us versus the problem. So if you have a person who's really struggling with, avoidance or withdrawing or people pleasing, or if you have one of you is struggling with lashing out and angry outbursts, well, let's team up. Let's solve this problem together. Well said, dude. Well said.
So I wanted to just see if there was that hope. I'm glad there's hope. Um, and now that you're on this side of it and teaching this, when you think of parental anger, is that the first thing that comes to your mind too? This yelling, this.
Well, when I think of parental anger, the first thing comes to mind for me, kind of hard to talk about. Not sure if I should talk about it, which is my childhood. My childhood, my parents divorced when I was 11, and my mother is a beautiful woman, and I love her a lot. So she's got so many great gifts, but she was raised in a very angry and abusive home, and she did bring some of that anger and kind of emotional abuse and some verbal expressions of anger into our home in my childhood growing up. Man, it's some painful stuff.
I mean, it's understandable. It's hard to not, you have to really work on it to not bring it with you. It affects us for a long time.
I've learned to have compassion for her because as much as I do love my late grandfather, the stories that she's told me and my aunts told me is that there was a lot of anger and aggressions and abuse in my mother's upbringing. But I don't even know. Am I allowed to talk about my childhood on a podcast, Jordan? Like, I'm being kind of serious. Like, I am going to talk about it, but do I have to, like, what if my parents listen to this? Like, am I allowed to talk? Because I want to honor my parents. I want to respect them, but I also want to tell my story. I want to, on this podcast, I want to open up and be real,
I mean, I think that's the only way. I mean, people who listen are going to want to know what your backstory is. They're going to know they're not alone, right? You share your
Mm-hmm.
story, and you're going to have how many people with a similar upbringing to know that they can get better. If you don't share your story, then there's going to be this wall there that maybe won't allow the listener and your clients really adopt you and accept you in. But when it comes to acceptance or allowance from your parent versus you, this is your story. I
Okay.
mean, you can
Okay.
obviously always honor your parents, but
Yeah.
you're using this for the greater good. You're using it to help others. And I think that's
We're
where
trying. Like, I
we
know
need to
it.
focus on.
I'm being kind of serious when I say, do I have to like wait for my parents to pass away for me to talk about my childhood? Like, am I allowed to share my personal experiences? And they're just one-sided personal. They may not have been skewed. These are the stories of a 44-year-old man who's telling stories of when he was, a child, and those stories could be skewed. They may not be, and they're only one side of the story. But do we have to wait, Jordan, for our parents to pass away before we talk about our experiences as a kid?
I don't know, man. I mean, sharing your experience with a friend versus sharing your experience publicly that's a different thing you gotta weigh. But it obviously impacted you, and it's obviously created who you are. Life is happening for you and not to you. So would we have Sean Donohue, the one we hear and listen to now, without that childhood upbringing? I don't think so.
Well, here's because the same man that has been saying let's not demonize yelling, let's actually demonize avoidance. Here's partly why I say that. I partly say that because of my own education and my work, but here's partly why I say it is because I vowed, man, I made a vow that I was never going to be an angry parent, that I was not going to do kind of what my parents did to me as a parent did. I made a vow. I would never lose it like that to my kids. And if I did, it wouldn't be a pattern. And I would really, really make amends, and I would change, and I would be gentle and caring,
I think that's beautiful. I mean, who knows how long the abuse has gone to prior generations, and you're making a stance to stop it now.
Makes me wonder how many of you listening to this, like, this is your story. Like, maybe you were raised in a home when there was a lot of avoidance or a lot of drinking, a lot of alcohol abuse, or a lot of multiple marriages, and you just made a vow. I'm not going to do that anymore. I want to be a cycle breaker. I think that I would guess, Jordan, the majority of people listening to this, that they would say, that's me. I want to be better than my parents. I do not want to pass this cycle on to my kids.
Now we just got to figure out how to put it into practice because it's going to take practice. It's not easy. I think I made that decision years ago and I'm still working on it.
But let's also look at a beautiful thing. Like, your mother, I'm a big fan of hers. I'm a big fan of my mother too. I'm a big fan of your mom, but she's a lovely woman, extremely successful in parenting, grandparenting, and business. And so did she give you a good example, maybe your dad too, of how to manage anger when you were a child or a teenager? Did one of your parents give you a good example of emotional regulation? How did you become you? Like, how did you become how did your parents support you to help you be the man you are today in that
Well,
topic?
I've never really had an anger issue where I would bring it home and they had to parent me on that. So I've never gotten that from them. However, with that being said, my parents were very much forward thinkers and were big into like mind over matter, right? to think
Oh
is to
yeah.
create what happens between
Yeah.
your
Both
ears is
both
like
parents,
really
huh?
important. Yeah,
Yeah.
both parents. So they would like
Interesting.
already put me in like a class that teaches me how to think outside the box at a young age, which kind of helped
Wow.
my mindset at a very young age. So
Yeah.
they never did it, but they pushed me
Yeah.
to go to these classes, which now I reflect on still to this day.
That's really interesting. Yeah. In parenting, there's always this discussion, nature versus nurture. So maybe it's always been in your kind of God given nature to not be an explosive, angry type person. But what we just are highlighting here is that your parents nurtured that in you and your siblings, that mind over matter, this mindfulness
Yeah.
over, which is sounds like what a modern term would be emotion coaching, right? Helping our children
Right.
to really
I think, I
thrive.
mean, we all need this. I would love for my kids to go. I mean, you're not going to get this at school. You're just not. The school counselors don't do any of this stuff.
No, well, that's why the title of my book, which hopefully will come out in 2023 on bookshelves everywhere, is called Schools Won't Teach This. A parent's how-to guide to raise wise, emotionally intelligent adults, where I put all of my best stuff in a book, and I'm pumped about
Dude,
it.
that's awesome. I'm so excited for you. That's going to be great.
Gosh, I hope I can finish it up soon. You know what? Let's end our show with an attitude of gratitude. When I think of angry and anger explosions, there's only one person I think of. I think about my amazing wife and how she's been my teacher, my helper. She's been so graceful for me because I've struggled with anger a lot. And my anger that I've struggled with has been more of that avoidant withdrawing, passive aggression, snarkiness, labeling. And I've struggled with all of it, but she's just taught me so much about myself. And she's been so committed to me to help me to grow as a man. And she still loves me and supports me and lets me grab her butt sometimes. And I'm just grateful for that. And that,
That's awesome.
and that nice butt of hers. How
That
about you,
is
man?
awesome. That's so good. Oh man, that's great. Well, when it comes to anger, it's fun watching these kids and how they're showing their anger. And the fact that I'm still learning how to manage mine and see what they're doing
Mm,
in theirs, it's really cool as a parent to kind of see this and help guide them along the way. So like my son, he gets his energy out and his anger out with a lot of like physical energy. And I can tell if he has a lack
yeah.
of sleep or too much sugar, he'll go crazy. So I can already see that. And then there'll be times when my daughter, I'll just be looking out in my backyard and we have this little hill and she'll be up there sitting on the
Oh,
top of the
yeah.
hill, cross-legged, arms put like this, which basically showcases that she's meditating, right? With
Oh,
like
my
that straight
gosh.
back. And I'm like, what
Oh,
are
my
you doing? And I
gosh.
don't know if she's actually doing it or not, but I look up there and I'm
Wow.
like, this is so funny to see her do this. She goes, I'm meditating, Dad. I'm like, great. Whether
Oh,
you're
my
doing it or not, I
gosh.
love this.
Oh,
So
my
I'm
gosh.
I'm grateful for the complete
Yeah,
opposites of
dude.
these kids. It's so funny.
Wow, man. So grateful. Jordan and I are really grateful to be able to be imperfect parents and to encourage you and inspire you. Thanks to you for listening today.